Good morning, everybody. Don't mind this coffee cup. I don't know where I got this. I got this from somewhere. It's called Real Swinger or Real something. I don't know. It was from a garage sale. Anyways, so yeah, um, it's quite interesting, all of the news stories out there, and a lot of stuff coming out under Trump's watch. Some pretty significant stuff coming out under Trump's watch, which we really need to give Trump a little bit of credit, regardless of how it comes out, or regardless of the intention of why it's coming out, whether it's the Democrats trying to pin Trump and paint him as part of a sex abuse network, or if it's Trump's people finally bringing to surface things that have been going on in the background for the last 20 something years. Okay. So I've been focusing on, well, not focusing so much, but I've been focusing just with some of the videos on the Jeffrey Epstein case. It's been part of the conspiracy community for a very long time. And I would say that this thing with the Jeffrey Epstein pedophile network, okay, let's just call it what it is, has been something that I did study during my conspiracy years. And we've had several presidents, sitting presidents, that have known about this guy and what he's been doing, but it never came out. Now, I'm not saying that this was all a calculated effort on Trump to go and bring to justice all of the bad people in the high levels of government. And I'm not saying that Trump is super innocent either. I'm sure he's had his dalliances with young girls. Maybe not younger than 18, but pretty young. I'm sure he's had his dalliances with the tawdry side of society. And when you have money and power, you tend to feel that you can kind of do anything. And so, but regardless of how this thing with the Jeffrey Epstein pedophile network comes out, it's out. And now we're watching just the supernovas, the fireworks all around it. And it's so trippy because I talk about with the Jelly Juice protocol that it brings up past, present, and future triggers. And most of us, if not all of us, have had some types of really good relationships with male or female in the past. And some of us had really bad relationships with male or female in the past. Okay? And it shaped your future. It shaped your perspective on the opposite sex or even the same sex. And that's a type of trauma. And in the process of those experiences, what things we pick up along the way, we pick up viruses, we pick up trauma, we pick up bacteria, we pick up a lot of stuff. And it gets held inside our body. And then it manifests in different ways. It could manifest in artistic outlets. It can manifest in anger and rage and bullying. It can manifest in so many different ways that you can tell that someone has been abused in their life just by the way they treat other people, by the way they treat their own children, by the way they treat their animals. And so you see signs of sexual abuse from people in just the way they treat everything around them. Okay? And so there are even the aggressors, the ones that are causing abuse on people, have been through their own trauma. No different than the ones that are being abused have dealt with trauma in the past and are experiencing it. Okay? So with the J-Juice protocol, you're going to be dealing with past triggers, PTSD, potential sexual abuse, if you've ever experienced that. It doesn't have to be even like as a child being molested. It could also be as an adult, making the wrong choices in your men and women, and then having to flee situations or having to deal with situations that now, as you're older, you probably wouldn't get into that same situation again because you learned from the past. So some of the things that we've experienced on the Jilly Juice protocol when it comes to past triggers coming up, some people have taken illicit drugs like psychedelics, or even not even illicit, maybe even prescription drugs that have caused hallucinogenic types of dreams, caused a lot of issues in their body. And then they abused it. So it's not like you did a drug or you smoked a little pot way back when, or you did a little speed back when you were younger. It's not like, the experimentation, that will come to surface. That's not going to happen. Your body already took care of it. It's not there. It's when you abuse a drug, or you've been abused, either way. When you abuse a drug, that sits in your body, and then it comes out in different ways. Some people get flashbacks. Others have it so suppressed that they wall it off. It's still there, but they never release it, but it's still there, but it still colors how they perceive life. And some people that have been on the protocol have experienced some of those flashbacks come into surface from the illicit drug use. Knock them for a loop. And actually, I had somebody tell me about that, actually, a couple, like right in the beginning of the protocol. She's not on the protocol anymore, and I've released her. She was part of the holistic world and couldn't really get behind this information. So I released a lot of people way back in the beginning when I had that 60,000 person group. But I know that in the beginning, she was feeling these PTSD traumas come to surface from her drug use, from being on antidepressants and other types of hallucinogenics. So that's why I knew that your past trauma, things that you've abused in the past, would come to surface. So that's what paved this whole understanding that past, present, and future triggers are going to be addressed. And you only know what it is that you've ever experienced. So this is a personal journey. I can't say that you're going to experience this to somebody else because I don't know their history, and they're not going to tell me their medical history. And I don't want to know your medical history. That's too much information for me to know about anybody. Okay? Only you know. And then you will deal with it. You just have to know what to expect. But I've had my own experiences with different men's and all that stuff, and nothing too lasting that's traumatized me. And I'm a pretty strong person, heal from it, and you move on. But this protocol is no joke. Now, I'm not experiencing anything like you guys have known that, well, if you've listened to my last transmission, I've been feeling very, very tired lately. Like I've been sleeping a lot more, even during the day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and then sleeping a full night. Okay, so it's a trip. I'm like, damn, I'm in my third year. What the hell is going on? And I'm having these crazy dreams of people in the past. And I'm like, what the hell? And this just came up recently. And then my focus on the whole Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I'm not saying that I was ever in those situations of those girls, but I can kind of see what the hell's going on and can relate in a lot of ways. Because, when you date older people and they exploit, the girls date older guys a lot. And men who have issues will exploit the weaker sex or a weaker person. And you see that in age gap relationships. And when somebody is being exploited, you can kind of tell. But it's really none of your business if they're over the age of 18. But yeah, I've dated older people. And yeah, and so it's interesting that I've been focused on the Jeffrey Epstein, watching, and I'm like, I don't like to go and just put myself and watch all these just morbid videos, because that's not really the focus I want to have in my life, is to always watch all these tawdry things on YouTube and get titillated by all the details. But something told me I really needed to watch some of these videos. And then I started having these dreams, and then and then I've been having these these really feeling tired, because when I looked up chronic fatigue, and it's talking about purging. I was talking about viruses. So whenever you have a symptom, you guys, okay, when you're dealing with the J juice, it's not that the J juice did it to you. you have these viruses in your body that are so embedded deep, and it has changed your programming. Now, on a weak body, it'll cause really like anomalies and malfunctions, okay? Because you have not strengthened your body to handle the messages from these viruses. So they cause all of these issues, okay? However, on a strong body, your body will receive the message and be able to process it and then get rid of the excess. So, you know, I've been dealing with having these things come to surface, and the dreams, and then looking at what causes chronic fatigue, and looking at we've all been exposed, every single person, the debunkers, the ones that are angry facing and laughing, they know they're full of viruses, and they're going to do nothing to release them. If anything, they're exhibiting all of the crazy programming from these viruses on weak bodies, okay? Those are the people that have been abused, that will never deal with their past issues, ever. And they know it. And you ask them for a titer test, they won't give you their results of a titer test because they know they'll come up positive for every single virus that you're testing for. And so that's why you don't worry about what the debunkers say. Now we are finally able to deal with all the viruses we've ever been exposed to. And believe me, I have not gotten a titer test to see if I've been exposed and testing positive for every single virus out there. But even if you don't test positive and you test negative, you still been exposed, you still have the programming, it just isn't out of control to where you're testing positive. So I don't care who you are. If you've been exposed to the population, had sex in some point in your life, had relationships, because you're not only like sleeping or being exposed to that immediate person's bacteria and viruses, but every single person they've been with and the parents that bore that child, that adult, all of their viruses. Okay, that's natural immunity in the mother to baby type of stuff when it comes to the vaccine world. So the babies inherit all the mother's viruses, traumas, bacterias. The baby grows up to be an adult, goes and has sex with a bunch of different people, and then you happen to be in a relationship with that person. You're not only sleeping with that person, but you're also being exposed to every single aspect of what they've been exposed to in their life, plus generational curses or generational viruses down the line, okay? So I don't care who you are, you've been exposed to every single virus that's out there that's concerned by the CDC. Whether it's HIV, EBV, herpes, HPV, everything. And right now we're seeing people exhibit the malfunctioning of their body from these viruses because they have not strengthened their body. And so you see fear, you see rage, you see regret, you see bullyism, you see depression, you see obesity, you see cancer, disease, chronic illness, aging. All of those are from the viruses that your body has not been able to strengthen it or hasn't been able to process because you have a very weak body, because you've never fixed I won't say mutations, you haven't fixed the weaknesses, because mutations can actually be of strength, okay? And then mutations can also be the death of you. It's that spectrum of life of where you are in that life and how you process the information around you. And people who are on weak bodies their heads will explode on my information. That's why you see the debunkers out there. That's why you see the fear mongers out there, because they can't handle and process the information around jelly juice. And so the only way they can process it is by rejecting it and then causing fear around it, because they have viruses and weaknesses in their body that they will never ever address, and they will go to their grave with these viruses and these weaknesses and these traumas that will never ever be corrected. And then they have children who have then experienced the same traumas, because the apple does not fall far from the tree. You see it in families. Apples do not fall far from the tree. The sins of the father also, the sons and the daughters will emulate and repeat the same mistakes the parents did, unless somebody goes in and changes the programming. That's what JJUS is attempting to do, is to change the programming so you're not taking on the sins of your father and your mother. which I know sounds very aggressive and very religious, but those are all the viruses. Those are all the, now it's not viruses are bad. Those are all the weaknesses that was never corrected in prior generations. And so what you're seeing right now is a tipping point in our society with people dying sooner and sooner because every single generation that goes and procreates because of the death trajectory, they're on a death trajectory because reproduction gets triggered by the body not wanting to trigger extinction. And so what does biodiversity do when they see that the body's in danger of dying and becoming extinct? It drops seeds. This is why you see predators out there, whether it's the Jeffrey Epsteins or the people in the debunking groups. Okay, they're infecting. So the ones that are laughing at this video, the ones that are angry facing, they are predators. They are dropping seeds of destruction all over the internet. And then you have predators, who sexual predators, that will go and drop seeds on young people. Whether it's, so the debunkers are actually no different than the pedophiles in a lot of ways, because they're both in this downward spiral. Anyone that bullies anyone that goes and tries to destroy somebody, whether their character or their body, is on a death trajectory, and it's like a supernova. They have to go and infect everybody around them. And so Jeffrey Epstein and all of these people in high levels of government, they're all aging. Power has gone to their head. When people are reporting me all to the freaking government, they're trying to destroy me and work with the agencies to try to take Jillian down. That's no different than these people in high levels of government that think that they are immune to the laws, and they go and victimize weaker population. So you will see in the debunking groups are no different than these pedophiles that are out there harming other people because they don't understand boundaries, and they're on a death trajectory, not dealing with the weaknesses in their body and the viruses that are gone out of control, controlling their programming. And they are like a cancer in our society, trying to destroy anything good in this world, whether it's a young child or someone bringing up new information. So sometimes viruses can be good on a strong body, but right now viruses are not good on the weak body. And that's how these debunkers, these trolls that I deal with, that's how my information is landing in their world, because they have such weak bodies, they can't possibly process this information and benefit from them. And then what they do, they go and try to destroy. They seek and destroy. Those are the malware in our society, are the debunking groups. They're the malware. They are the negative viruses that are destroying life. And J-Juice is trying to create life and make it indefinite, so we're not dying from things that are preventable. Okay? And so Jeffrey Epstein is an excellent example of somebody on a death trajectory, victimizing and utilizing his wealth. When you have that much money, you think you're invincible, you think you're immune to any consequences. And it took the Trump administration, regardless of what the intention was, to bring this shit to surface. Thank fucking God, because now people can see what's going on. Because I'll tell you, sexual abuse happens. It happens everywhere. Sex is being weaponized. You know why? Because it's made from people who are on a death trajectory. It is being caused by people who are on a death trajectory. It's their last hurrah. And then finally, you know, Jeffrey Epstein is so old now that he doesn't have the strength or the support system anymore to cover him up. All of those guys that he's hanging out with, that he hung out with the last 20 years, are all getting older. They don't have the moxie like they did back then. And then now it's going to show and expose to the type of people in our society that do the same thing to other people, but in different ways. So a pedophile is no different than a bully, just so you understand. Just it manifests in a different way. So when you go and attack somebody on the internet and you go and try to defame their name, and you're just attacking and saying that they do this and they do that and completely trying to destroy them, you're taking on characteristics of a Jeffrey Epstein, but in a different way. You can't get to the next to them physically, so you can't hit them or sexually abuse them, but you'll find a way through the internet to basically try to destroy them. That's no different than the pedophile network that's out there. So watch yourself. Those of you that are bullies on the internet, you are exhibiting those characteristics. People need to understand that just because you don't sexually abuse someone, but you bully them, it comes from the same unresolved weaknesses from viruses that you've been exposed to. Okay? And I didn't really put those two together until I've gone through my own healing process. I've had some crazy dreams, physical symptoms that come up, and then my weird attraction to listening to some of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and it's coming out very timely. And then realizing that, oh my God, our society is going to get even crazier, just so you guys know. It's going to get crazier. Luckily, this stuff is coming to surface. The Jeffrey Epstein pedophile network is coming to surface. And luckily, we're in a surveillance society, because now the FBI and all the different agencies that do care, and they have to be held accountable, because they will have no choice but to, because the people are going to force them to regardless. Now we're going to start recognizing the signs of what would cause someone to go and sexually abuse. There's this one article of this guy, this woman, remember she was, this scientist that working in molecular biology. She was in Greece and she was jogging, and some guy came out and hit her with the car, immobilized her, then took her to a cave and basically sexually abused her, raped her, and then choked her. This is like in Crete, Greece. I read the details of the case and found out that this guy was on the internet propagating how spiritually aware and spiritually, like, I forget the name, where you're like, God, I can't even think of the name or the word. But he is like this spiritual advisor of sorts. And just like enlightened. Like he's a spiritual enlightened, and he looks on the internet as if he was just this person that you'd want to go and follow. Well, and I don't know if he is conserving his sex, not having sex, taking on maybe a Buddhist principle, but he's also probably fasting. He's probably taking on the pills, powder, and supplements. He's probably aging. And I guess he found a way to release his demons and found a foreigner and victimized her. Be careful who you follow on the internet who is claiming to be spiritually enlightened and does all these fasting and all these things that put you on a death trajectory, because you're seeing sexual abuse and you're seeing abuse so fucking prevalent on people who are on that death trajectory. That's why we have wars. That's why we have victims. That's why we have all these things, because there are people that claim to be one thing, but they're actually something totally different. And I'm not saying every single person that says that claims that are spiritually aware are a abuser, but you're seeing sex and dating and all of that be part of the fabric of our society, the porn industry, all of that. Now, I'm not trying to come from this religious, like, oh my God, I'm being a prude, but there is a balance to this. And we're seeing now there are more imbalances around sex and abuse and bullying than there is a balance with it just being kind of part of life. We're seeing it being used as a weapon. Because the more that our society is exhibiting our exposure to the viruses on weak bodies, the more you're going to see people do stupid stuff. I mean, why we have the metal detectors in the airports, why we're having to arm teachers in schools. Now, you could say, oh, it's the government trying to justify taking your guns, but look around you. I know people that have been molested in my world. That's how fucking close abuse is. Whether it's sexual abuse, I've been bullied in school. I've been bullied on the internet by people who are exhibiting characteristics of a Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? If you've ever been bullied, that is by somebody. That's somebody taking what they think is their power and trying to destroy somebody. We got to recognize those characteristics and we have to stop it. Which means that you don't entertain the trolls. I tried to tell Christina Morris, do not entertain the trolls. If anybody goes and bullies you and talks smack, don't try to talk them into this protocol. Do not even interact with those types of people, because those types of people are dangerous in and of themselves. Their energy is a seek and destroy energy. That's what their energy is a seek and destroy energy. And then they will infect you because you keep going back and forth with them, trying to convert them into this. No, 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 no. Do not talk anybody into the J juice. If somebody sees a J juice, there's something really, really, really powerful about it, and they get it, then they will do it. If someone is completely trying to discredit you and trying to take you down, they're the Jeffrey Epsteins that are going to basically destroy themselves. Do not be a part of that supernova or that black hole, because that's what they are. When someone contacts you that you have no idea and they're talking smack about me, block them on the private messenger and block them on Facebook, because you don't want any involvement with any of those people at all whatsoever. That's what I do, people on my Facebook that want to question, want the proof, want this. I just immediately block. I used to interact with those. But I'm telling you, some of these journalists out there are exhibiting characteristics of a Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? And I'm taking it to extreme, yes, because that's exactly where this is going, you guys. You're seeing kids are being born with autism. You see people are even now more than ever so aggressive behind the keyboard. Their true personality is coming out behind the keyboard because they feel it's safe. Just like Jeffrey Epstein felt it was safe that he can do whatever the hell he wants behind his money. People that hide behind sock accounts, like a Carol Flack, exhibits the same characteristics as Jeffrey Epstein because he hid behind his money. She's hiding behind her sock account or his sock account. Just like all the different debunkers out there, they think they're all safe behind the keyboard to talk smack, but they're exhibiting characteristics of a Jeffrey Epstein. Those are the abusers in our society. You have to know that. Those are the abusers. You wonder what they do to their children. Those that actually exhibit those characteristics of bullying on the internet. If they can do it on the internet behind sock accounts or behind their own profile, you wonder what goes on behind closed doors. This is what you have to recognize, you guys. We have major abusers in our society. And you have to recognize who they are and point them out to your children so you don't have them get involved with them in any way or even take part in the bullying campaigns, because that's what creates these pedophiles. When you start feeling comfortable bullying someone on the internet, guess what? You're going to translate that into the real life. And then guess what? You're going to see bodies drop like flies around you by someone who got trained by someone on the internet to go and bully somebody. You see it in kids on YouTube. They're being exposed to this internet stuff, and they're being exposed, and then they're real true, there is, because there's no accountability on the internet. Parents are not paying attention to their kids, so these kids are going on the internet being jackasses, and now they're building a personality to go now be an abuser to then probably a young person that they can exploit. You have to recognize this is what's going on. Do not interact with anyone that purposely tries to destroy a person on the internet, as well as obviously somebody out in real life. I've had to deal with so many abusers on the internet. I've had boyfriends that were abusive. Okay? So let that be. So, and it's going to come out. You guys are going to be dealing with some of these traumas in your life. You guys will be dealing with some of these traumas in your life through the Jilly Juice and purging them out and healing. Okay? And and actually my dreams were actually not bad. They weren't like traumatic. But I knew innately with my focus on Jeffrey Epstein and then my physical symptoms lately within the last like month, and then also just with these dreams, I'm like, I'm putting it all together. I'm like, holy shit, that's right. And we hear in passing that, yes, you know, everyone that you've ever been with, you're going to be taking on their DNA, their viruses, their traumas, their pathogens, all that stuff. But when it's different to kind of know that, like peripherally, and then to experience it, it's totally a different thing. Okay, so that's why I haven't covered this before, because I wasn't really dealing with it. It wasn't something that came to surface. But then it's so interesting how it's like the universe is aligned. The thing with Jeffrey Epstein, and then my own healing symptoms, and then dealing with the bullies that are out there, and then recognizing what creates these pedophiles. It's the bullies on the internet that create these pedophiles, because especially in the high levels of government, because these high people in high levels of government are hiding behind their fucking money and power. That's the same exact mentality as these trolls on the internet, hiding behind their screen and their fake sock accounts, okay? Or hiding behind their journalist duty to go and expose all these cult leaders. Oh yeah, I'm a protector, but I'm going to go and victimize somebody else. Those that focus on attacking somebody and discrediting them and trying to destroy their company and their business, those are the abusers that then emulate the characteristics of the Jeffrey Epsteins. They have been abused in their life. You feel bad for them, but you don't want anything to do with them. But you also hold them accountable if they cross lines and boundaries and laws. That's why you have to still have faith in the justice system, because that will be your ticket to get justice. And right now, the FBI and the CIA and all of these, you know, like in New York, because Florida wasn't going to do shit for those poor girls. So New York is going to be the one to then hold him accountable, since Florida and all those people down in Florida, and it's Alan Dershowitz, what a jackass he is. Oh my God. Oh, sometimes these lawyers can be really good, and sometimes lawyers, holy crap. So these right now, the media right now, what they're focused on with Jeffrey Epstein's is a lesson for all of us on the internet who deal with bullies on the internet. And we need to call them out for what they are. And I will call out the bullies on the internet, because Jeffrey Epstein is a fucking bully. He exploited these girls from these poor communities that had nothing. And he basically dangled money. Okay? When someone comes from an abused home and their mother's on drugs, not giving a shit, and somebody from a really rich community goes and dangles money and says, okay, you got to do this, this, and this. You know, that's exploitation of a weaker personality, of a weaker person. And then Krista says, always just those types of people. I knew someone who was stuck in childish state and male, but targeted. Okay. But here's the thing. When you bully somebody, you're taking on a characteristic of some kind of perception of power, and you're seeking to destroy. And those types of weaknesses with power manifest in different ways. Now, I'm not saying every single bully is going to turn out to be a pedophile, but on certain circumstances, when all the conditions are right, they end up going that direction. Now, some of them are more craftier, and they will only date people who are 18 or older. But some of them will think that, okay, you know, I have it figured out, and they will find someone way younger or something, or who knows else. Or just maybe even abuse. If you're abusing someone on the internet and you're targeting them and you're totally trying to destroy them, what do you do to your own children and what you do to your animals? See, that's what concerns me, is these bullies on the internet. If they're so free to do that on the internet, you imagine what they do in their own home behind closed doors. That's what is crazy. And so just watch, everybody, guys. Watch the debunking groups. I mean, I hope the FBI understands this is the mentality of people, and this is what could create the abusers and the people that cause crimes. They should be watching those people on the debunking groups, because those are the perfect examples of the people who are going to go crazy in our society, potentially. The imbalanced people are in those debunking groups. And I hate to say it, but it's so true. Because they're already exhibiting the characteristics. What's next for them if they can do things on the internet and be all like the way they are on the internet? Imagine what they'll do in their own home, and then when they get pissed off in someone in their community. And it's not always just this type of people. That's what you're saying. there are people that are behind the scenes, but the ones that are so in your face, that's an easy pick out. The ones that are like really like quiet, I mean, because it goes from one extreme to the other. If you're so quiet and you know, I mean, like there's the Ted Bundys, right? The people that he was just like the guy next door, that then he was killing all these different people. But profiling, see, here's the thing, you know, the FBI has learned how to profile enough to figure out what would create a serial killer, what would create a pedophile, what would create an abuser. And the ones that are bullying on the internet, those are obvious abusers. Those are ones that's easy. That's a no-brainer. It's the ones that are so quiet that you don't even know they're not even on the internet because they're so quiet doing their own thing. You won't even know about them until you see them come up on the radar from like Radar Online or, you know, Daily Mail. Okay? So this is your seed of information to understand. Don't deal with the trolls on the internet. Do not respond to them. Don't interact with them. Okay? Don't even deal with them because they will infect you. And they are obvious abusers in their life, as well as who knows what else they're doing behind closed doors. Those are the FBI needs to actually investigate the debunkers out there that are exhibiting the bullying characteristics. Because it's not us. We're basically, we keep to ourselves with the jilly juice. We're trying to take care of our bodies. We're trying to get our imbalances correct. We're trying to deal with past, present, and future issues. Okay? We're trying to heal ourselves from past, present, and future triggers. We give a shit what happens in our society. Okay? So those that self-proclaim them as protectors and journalists who go and bully and go and try to destroy somebody, makes you wonder what they do behind closed doors. Those that are in the debunking groups, you wonder what happens behind closed doors. Those are the obvious ones that the FBI and the police need to be focusing on. And I think they are, because that right there is a profile of an abuser. And some will do very small abuses like on the internet and be like, you know, whatever. And then others will go and take it to the next extreme. Abuse children, abuse animals, abuse elders. Okay, so if you've been a victim, you potentially could be an abuser. So this is why JJ is so important, because most of us have been victimized in some way, in some little level. Not saying that we're going to turn into abusers, but if you have been abused for such a long time, and you're not dealing with that abuse, you're not purging out the trauma and fixing and all that stuff, that's going to then turn you. I mean, that's the thing is that when you focus so much on what your abuse has been, you then take on those characteristics because you're living in that abuse every single day. Okay? There has to be a way where there's a balance where that is not the only focus in your life, is whatever happened to you back then. When you live in that abuse for so many years and then you get away from it, but then you live in the memory of that abuse, trying to get out of that abuse, but you're still living in it, you're still focusing on it, and it's still a characteristic, and it's still something that you potentially could adopt. So here's the thing. There's ways in which you can get that purged out. Some people, yeah, they go to counseling. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's a therapy, that's temporary. And we hear about therapies. So those of you on the J Juice, obviously, yes, if you need to go do your therapy. And then do J Juice so you can have those two things side by side. You need to strengthen your body. You need to purge out past traumas. You need to purge out those excess viruses that are causing your system to go crazy. Okay, and you need to fix the weaknesses. So that way that abuse is only just a memory, it's just something that you dealt with, but it's not affecting you to where it colors everything that you do. These poor girls that have been victimized by Jeffrey Epstein, they've got years, and some of them have exhibited physical characteristics of that abuse. I mean, how many viruses have they been exposed to by those guys in power hiding behind their money? People that have been abused on the internet. Okay, they're probably exhibiting, and luckily I'm a strong person that I dealt with that abuse on this internet from the Carol Flacks and from all the different debunkers out there. But I'm not going to manifest all of that infection because I'm dealt with that April 1st with all the media. That was a lot of my therapy, and then doing the J juice, purging out the trauma, because that is an abuse in of itself. So this is the thing. These girls have a long road ahead of them, and some of them will not recover. Some of them won't repeat the mistakes. They'll try to do their best to keep their kids, away from it. But if you haven't learned from and purge out that trauma, it's just getting passed down. And no one's going to fix that weakness. And then you're going to see the apple not fall too far from the tree. So we hope we can break the cycle and break the chain. And this is the whole point of J juice, is to break the cycle, break the chain, so you're not bearing kids who have the same issues, contributing to the same stuff to our society. We hope that we can help our boys not turn into, and girls not turn into, either victims as well as perpetrators of crime. Okay? That's the whole point of J juice, is that we change the fabric of our society so we're not turning out children who are going to be then adults who will victimize the weaker population. So, whew, wow. And it's all about balance. Okay, some of you are married to people that have a high sex drive. You balance that out. You know where it comes from, but you balance out how much you're willing to give to your partner. Because sex can be beautiful, but it can also be very traumatic to some people. And you've got to be able to fix the weaknesses in your body so you can be able to balance out all the things that are part of our society, so you can adapt. See, that's what Jilly Juice is about, adaptation. How do you learn balance? How do you adapt to your society regardless of what it is, and still maintain and be a very contributing, law-abiding citizen that isn't victimizing other people? That's the whole point of J juice. How do you adapt to your society? Not play the avoidance game, not deal with all these therapies. Because yeah, when you're on therapy and playing the avoidance game, playing the pills, powder supplements, and detoxes, and staying away from milk and meat and all that stuff, it's like you're living on borrowed time. But people who believe in death, you're living on borrowed time. Okay? Because these weaknesses are being compounded every single generation, to where eventually people are going to then reproduce themselves out of existence. And that's not the point of J juice. That's not what we're trying to do. We believe in indefinite life, but not even just believe. We actually see evidence that we can regenerate our own cells, purge out our trauma, now have a clearer picture on who we deal with in our society and who to stay away from. Okay? And understand why people do things, why they do things they do. I understand, doesn't mean you accept it, but you understand it, and then you pick and choose who it is you interact with. And if somebody does throw mud your way, you convert that mud into cake batter. And you go bake a cake, and you drink the juice. Okay? Converting bad energy into good energy, because you have a well-balanced system. That's the whole point of J juice, is we can't control what comes at us, but we can convert it so it doesn't destroy us, because people will try to destroy you. The viruses, the negative viruses in our society, the abusers, the predators, the trolls on the internet, the Jeffrey Epsteins, they will try to destroy you. It's up to you to convert that. Not interact it, but convert it. And turn it into something good for you, to your benefit. Don't let what they do destroy you. So anybody can survive when they are at a weak point. So when you have a weak point in your childhood and you've experienced all this abuse, like these girls, they have the opportunity, if they understand this information, to heal from all of those abuses from the past. Maybe they come upon this information, maybe they don't. But those of you probably experience the same stuff in different ways, in different forms. And you have the ability to pull yourself out of that and strengthen those weaknesses and purge out the trauma. And then make sure your kids, you exemplify to your children that they don't have to repeat the sins of the father or the mother. All right. Have a good day. Bye.